Great, I think we're recording. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us this Friday. We know that obviously these are different times and difficult times for a lot of folks. And I think about what native CDFIs are doing, and I think what you all are doing great things in helping provide access to capital to folks that really need it right now. And you obviously are seeing a lot of changes in what you're doing at work. I think about my home community. I'm from the Navajo Nation, and we have more than 500 confirmed COVID-19 cases as of last night. And so this weekend, they're going on a 54-hour lockdown, or maybe not lockdown, but curfew. So people aren't supposed to be going out to the store, anything like that, unless they're essential workers. So I know that this is an interesting time, but I appreciate what you all do. And thanks for joining us. What we want to do today is, my background is, this is where community of Red Mesa, Arizona, where I grew up. And so that's what that's about. What we want to do today is provide another update. We've been doing this for the past 4 weeks, and our purpose here is really straightforward. We want to provide update on information to our members and also get valuable feedback from our membership. And so that this will help influence the way we're going forward. Also to help share information across native CDFIs. Obviously, our folks are very well up to date on the challenges that they face, and I think a lot of probably the challenges one native CDFI might face over here in one part of the country they might face again in another. And so I think sharing of that information is great, and native CDFIs have really done a great job of that, and that really is a point of pride, I think, for a lot of native CDFIs, and especially native CDFI network, where we can help folks do that. So here's a quick agenda of what we wanted to do. Thanks again to everybody. We want a quick welcome, provide an update on NACA, provide an update on the Payment Protection Program, provide an update on CARES Act, what they're calling 3.1 or 3.5, and then also what they're calling then move on to phase 4 of legislation. And then one of the last things you want to let our folks know about is the regional pods initiative that NCN is working on, and then open it up to member discussion. But as always, if you have questions, don't hesitate to chime in. I'm trying to find and if I don't call on you right away, then just chime in. Cool. We'll move forward. So I think most folks saw this, but 2 days ago, the CDFI fund announced that they are extending their deadline for NACA and other CDFI fund applications. So this screen shows you that April 30th is the date that our folks need to be aware of. Previously it was April 21st. And thanks everybody that participated in our survey earlier. Our survey found that 79% of the folks that native CDFIs that participated wanted an extension for the NACA deadline, and this will help folks whose offices have been shut down, who need to get access to valuable information, and also folks that might not have good internet connections be able to work through those issues. So thanks, and I think that's good news. And we sent the CDFI fund a note saying thanks as well. Moving on, obviously everybody knows, and we've talked quite a bit about the Payment Protection Program that was part of the CARES Act. This is the overview that you all have seen already. And then, but if you want a reminder, obviously it allows folks to get a a loan that can be forgiven, provided folks do not lay off any members. And the loan can be used for payroll. It can be used for utilities, and it's very popular right now, and we'll talk about that as well. And then today, notably today is the first day that independent contractors can apply for the loan. So if you know independent contractors, today's the day that opens up. So folks that do get paid, pay themselves by 1099 or sole proprietors, it is now open to them, and they shouldn't wait. They need to move fast. There has been a great amount of demand, and really, unless Congress acts, that money, which is available for first come, first serve, will run out. So we've flagged two challenges native CDFIs are facing. And here's the first one. It's that some local SBA offices and even some congressional staff do not think that CDFIs are eligible. And we strongly disagree with that interpretation, and we think the law's on our side here. To give you some background about how folks would come to that conclusion, so the SBA has some standard operating procedures, and these standard operating procedures for their 7A program, which the PPP is under the 7A program, the standard operating procedures do not allow folks whose primary mission is lending to be eligible for the 7A loans. However, the CARES Act, which created the PPP program, explicitly authorizes nonprofits under the act. And then also we have a link here to the interim rule that also explicitly authorizes nonprofits that were otherwise ineligible to act. And so we flagged this for the SBA here in Washington. We've flagged it for a few different members of Congress. And then we reached out to the Native American Bank, and probably a lot of the folks who are on here were also on the OESTA's webinar the other day on the PPPs, and the Native American Bank agrees with our interpretation, and they're one of, I think, a few lenders out there who have already worked on some PPPs with native CDFIs. And so I think if you think that you are eligible, again, I'd encourage you to get on that as soon as possible. Like I said, the funds are first come, first serve, and right now Congress is in a fight about authorizing more funds.
Hey, Jackson.
Yep.
On that, this is Pete Upton. You know, the not only for native CDFIs, but also small businesses are having a challenge getting banks to process their PPPs, and we've worked hard with all of our small businesses on the PPPs. And yesterday we had a situation to where she went into her local bank, and the banker actually told her for the amount of fees that they were receiving to process these PPPs that they would not even take her application. So she drove 50 miles, and the next bank said, yeah, we'll do it. So it's really a matter of the bank itself. Each bank, attitude about the program. And like our particular bank, you know, they processed it and there was no problem. And we've had probably 15 of our clients go in and have had no problem with it. But then there's the handful that the attitude of the banker that they're dealing with is really going to dictate whether they're allowed to apply for it at that bank or not. So that's been a challenge.
Let's pause there. Is anyone on the call? Have you all applied for the PPP, and have you run into similar challenges?
Jackson, this is Cindy. There are businesses here that can't apply. For example, Wells Fargo is asking for independent contractors to even have a bank account or a business account.
Yeah.
And not acceptable. A solo entrepreneur didn't have a business account but had a depository relationship with Wells Fargo. They declined to offer that. And then other businesses too. I'm trying to get a sense for rural Alaska, and I haven't heard. So I have a suspicion that it's slow in getting out in rural Alaska.
Yeah. And on that note, Cindy, you know, like in Nebraska here, what was reported on the local news is Union Bank and Trust, which is located in Lincoln, Nebraska. They have processed more than any other bank in the United States of the PPPs. Less than a mile away, the Wells Fargo there only took applications for 2 days and then they shut it down. So
that's about what I heard.
Yeah.
I did read last night that the feds are lifting Wells Fargo's lending limit narrowly and watching it, is what I heard.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, Wells Fargo obviously has the biggest footprint in Indian country, and they were initially limited by how much they could lend, but supposedly that's been lifted.
Yeah. And otherwise, we've been directed to go to Key Bank, and Key Bank has one branch in Anchorage, one in Dutch Harbor, and no other locations.
I also reached out to, there are a couple native CDFIs that do 7A lending, and I think I reached out to the First American Capital. I think a lot of folks on the phone know Craig Anderson, who out there in Wisconsin, and he's been really one of the few folks that work in the 7A program, and I'm going to ask him to see if he can join us on one of our future calls. But they, like I said, they aren't doing that much PPP loans just yet. So, but Native American Bank is, and Native American Bank is also a bank as well as a CDFI. And I also reached out to Alaska Growth Capital, but I haven't been able to circle back with them. So, but I think Alaska Growth Capital, I think Cindy pointed out, is a 7A lender too.
Correct.
Yeah. And Jackson, you know, one of the things that we're doing with this too is the number of clients that we have. We've been really working hard with them on the PPP and then the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program.
Yeah.
Because I guess our strategy and our philosophy is if we can keep our small businesses healthy as possible and keep, you know, them having the funds to pay their debts during this period of time, you know, they're going to come out of this healthier. And I guess we're just trying to be proactive to, once we get over the hump, that they're healthy and they're going to stay in business, and which, you know, could mean less defaults for native CDFIs on their loans, or even deferrals and things of that sort. And the thing that we haven't done is we've been taking everybody on a case-by-case basis, that each one client of ours, you know, we're visiting with them one-on-one of what their, you know, needs are. And surprisingly, we've had probably 40% of our total loan volume there in industries that are actually not being affected by this. So that's the positive. But and even on our consumer aspect of it, we've been trying to just be a coach on the sidelines for them and direct them, so that in the end, you know, that the native CDFI, or, you know, us in particular, we're not going to hopefully have a lot of credit slow pays or, you know, catastrophes on the backside of this. So that's kind of what we've been looking at, trying to be proactive.
Hey, Jackson.
Hey, Dave.
Hey.
Nice background.
Corn's coming in nicely. Yeah. So what needs to happen on the advocacy front? Because I understand the Senate Dems blocked the bill because the R's were not in favor of the CDFI fund. Did you already talk about that? I mean, because this is going to be a problem, right? Like, banks have not been friendly to Indian country in good times. So why would they be now, right?
Yeah. so and we'll get to the advocacy part for, I guess, what they're calling 3.5. But I think we welcome your ideas about, I guess, how to frame that. We'll get to the advocacy. I think I want to touch on one other challenge that some native CD5s have been facing. I want to see if anybody else on the call has, but banks are the way the banks take in the loans. They kind of everybody has to put down their EIN, and if you're a tribally chartered nonprofit, then you share the same EIN as your tribal government. And so I think some of the tribally chartered CDFIs are running into some trouble accessing this. And I just wanted to pause really quick, see if anybody else had that problem. Okay. All right. So I think then, yeah, get into the next steps. There's two things. We're writing a letter to address those two things, and as far as making it clear that CD5 should be counted. The SBA puts together a frequently asked questions document, and they post on their website, and lenders look at that. And we want to be included in that, make it clear that CD5s should be included because we're nonprofits. And then also engage in a consultation. So those are the two next steps I see, but I think David, I think you might have some additional pieces to add there.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I mean, it wouldn't be difficult to get Southern California Tribal Chairman's Association, ITCA, APGC, probably ATNI to submit letters. I mean, are we at that point yet?
For these two things, or for kind of the funding the PPP more broadly? And
I mean, either. I mean, you know, the policy piece is kind of your bag, so we'll take your lead.
Okay. Well, I guess, yeah, I'll get to the, I guess, the congressional bills. I think these are the two things that we're going to do on the administrative side, and I think hopefully that should clear things up. And then this just came out. There's going to be a tribal consultation on this next week on the PPP, and then also the, I guess, eligible, another piece. But I think the first part, the PPP, is what is most relevant to our members, and that'll be on the 14th of April. And yeah, this literally came out 30 minutes before we got this call. So we'll send this out to our folks. But what we
serious.
Yeah, but what we want, I guess, our members to comment on, or their tribal folks, is these two things: that they need to make it clear that CDFIs that are nonprofits are eligible for the PPP, and then two, and then two, that tribally chartered nonprofit CDFIs need to be counted and eligible. Right, make that clear. So yeah, and then
I can't see your screen. What's your screen? Are you showing your screen right now?
I am.
Can't see it.
So I haven't been showing my screen this whole time?
It did. It came back and it was on earlier.
I still see it.
Yep, I still see it.
I see it.
Setting issue for me? What's going on? Oh, okay, thanks. It's if anyone else is Zoom illiterate, it's you just have to choose the little block there. A second block from the left in the I don't even know what this is called. There's a setting though. Sorry folks. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem. Cool. Okay, and so this is more moving into what Congress is doing, and then Dave Castillo mentioned. Obviously, the PPP is running out of money, and Senate Democrats and Republicans couldn't agree to a bill. The Senate Democrats wanted to they wanted to pass a 2-page bill that provided $200 billion more for the PPP, and Democrats wanted quite a bit more fixes. And so, since they're not in town right now, they need to have 100% agreement, and so to pass a bill without them being here. so some Senate Democrats didn't want to agree to that bill, and so right now they're in talks about that. And then also on the advocacy front, we coordinated with the National Congress of American Indians. They put together a letter of different economic development asks, and we made sure that our ask of 100 million for the NACA fund is included in that letter. And so they were going to join us, but they had to cancel. But they wanted to make sure that they shared that that was a part of their ask. And as far as the timeline for this, it changes hour by hour. So we'll see. I know that the Senate Republicans are also talking to Nancy Pelosi, and Pelosi's bill, I think, like Dave mentioned, includes $1 billion for this overall CDFI fund, and is silent on where NACA fits in that and how that would be broken out. But that's what we want. We also support the $1 billion ask, and because NACA would get a piece of that. And then really related to this 3.5 is there's supposed to be another what they're calling phase 4 of COVID response, and that the phase 4 House Financial Services, Maxine Waters, she's been a big ally on the $1 billion ask, and so she's included that again, and she included it in her ask last time. And it got included in the House version of their bill, but she's made sure to keep it in there. And then I think a few organizations have sent letters, like we did previously, and there are some local and community banks that have sent letters supporting this, as well as OFN. So I'm gonna pause to see if there's any other questions about, I guess, the legislative side of this. All right. And then, oh yeah, and then I think we shared this last time, but the Trump administration wants to focus more on infrastructure, and then in what they're calling phase 4. And that they really want to hone down on that. As opposed to, I guess, other fixes that I think the CDFI piece really isn't a part of that ask right now, even though it's a part of our ask, and we're going to make sure we continue to push on it. Okay, all right. Now we're switching gears. I wanted to update folks on something that NCN has been working on, planning and rolling out. And that's the idea of building off of local discussions. I see Dave Tovey and other folks from the Northwest, like Amber, have been really active up in the Northwest, and they have a really great local CDFI community that is able to coalesce and also share best practices. And we think that's a good idea. And we have some of our friends in the Plains areas are working on that too. And this is an idea that our board has been planning for some time. And so we're, I guess, look for more information from us. We're working on what the map would look like. Here are 2 maps that don't fit exactly what we want, but we want to just share them kind of anyway. Obviously the BIA, they're organized into regions, and that's their map currently right now. And then also the Federal Reserve is another one that we think would be folks that we'd like to coordinate with. And I know that Jim Colombi, or sorry, Jim.
But yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to collaborations on advocacy and all these challenges.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim. But yeah. Jim's on the phone from the Center for Indian Country Development, and obviously, if you joined us, I think last week we had Jim and Casey talk to us. But we think that model really would be helpful for NCN, and also since it allow for more meetings to happen, and that way we don't have any bottleneck of folks, and you're able to go out and have these meetings and organize them on your own. But I want to pause real quick, see if Pete wanted to add anything else. Our board chairman, if you haven't met him, Pete's our board chairman.
Yeah, the I guess thing that I'd like to just add, I think the conversations that we've had with the Plains group, you know, what I really like about it is each region of the United States geographically, you know, the challenges are different, but the economic challenges are the same to a certain degree. And, you know, over the next week to 2 weeks, what I would really like to do is see if we have anyone who would be willing to organize a call with us just to, in your region, gather your CDFIs in that region and start forming pods, because I think I think as this thing, you know, kind of works itself through the process of the next 6 months, there's going to be challenges that many of our small business owners and many of our CDFIs that we're not even aware of yet. And so I think that we have to be proactive. We just can't wait for, you know, things to go back to normal. And the thing that I fear the most is that once the economy is opened up, it's going to be business as usual. And, you know, the urgency is now. We need to find out from local CDFIs in each region what their small business owners are facing. We need to find out, you know, what their CDFIs are facing, what the challenges are. So if anybody is willing to step up and, you know, kind of be part of a regional pod, you know, please email Jackson and let him know of your interest level. And then, you know, on another note too, I think the other thing that we have to start thinking about is native CDFIs. And I go back to this every call I think we have, is that, you know, with the CDFI fund, we're held to benchmarks and we're held to projections and we're held to ratios, but not knowing what the, you know, November, December, what our ratios, what our benchmarks are going to look like, because we don't know that far into the future. I think we need to really open up the conversation with the CDFI fund and look at the possibility of loosening up some of these benchmarks that CDFIs are going to be held to. I know the last 3 years of our grants, there have been benchmarks and projections that were held to. So I think that has to be part of our discussion. It's one thing to get the funds, the emergency funds now, but the thing that I always think about is the decisions that I'm making today. How is it going to affect our certification, you know, next year? So that's really all I have, is just a call for those that would be interested in getting on some local conversations and getting, you know, kind of to the grassroots level of this thing. That's all I have, Jackson.
Okay.
Any other one? It'd be great to hear from anyone else that would think about the regional pods and the power that, you know, the regional pods or the areas would have, you know, bringing things and funneling the information or the data to the national level. So if anyone else has any input, please voice in here.
Jackson, this is Amber.
Hey, Amber.
Hey, I just wanted to offer that if anyone's interested in what we're doing in the Pacific Northwest with the Northwest Native Lending Network, we only formed, gosh, I guess just formally last year, you know, and there's a whole bunch of things that we have decided that once we collaborate, we can be stronger together. And it has been really nice to have that network during this crisis, just to be able to have sounding boards, figure out what other CDFIs are doing, you know, so that we can be stronger with our own processes and policies. So I just want to put that out there. If anybody wants some information on how we formed and, you know, what we're doing, then feel free to contact me.
Yeah, Amber and Jackson both. I mean, that was really my question is, do you guys have like a draft agenda or a deck, a PowerPoint deck of information to go through and a process? Because I think a big part of it would be asking the native CDFIs in our region kind of what their needs are. But a lot of folks might just kind of might be you know, trying to figure it out. And so is there a process or some basic information that would be good to share, or information that you would like to get back as NCN that we could poll, you know, if we pull a meeting like that together so that we can kind of have a loop of information?
I can respond with what we have. I'm happy to share. There's actually a little information on our website that's just about who we are and what we're intending to do as the Northwest Native Lending Network. How we formed was, I mean, it was definitely before there was any real crisis. It just came out of a need of, we all run pretty lean shops and just trying to, we just set a meeting one day. It was a one-day meeting in Portland. We just had people come and say, hey, where could we use support and where could we leverage our own internal resources? But that was, of course, in easier, better times. But yeah, I'm happy to share kind of where we got to with those conversations. And then maybe, I'm sure that it's probably similar across CDFIs nationally. So yeah, I'll get that information to Jackson. And then people can or people can reach out to me directly.
Great. Thanks, Amber. I think, yeah, we want to, I guess, yeah, move in concert, obviously, with what you all have really established and hopefully replicate that in other areas. Yeah.
Hey, Jackson, there used to be a portal on the website for documents and stuff like that. Is the NCN website still have that, or where do we go for resource information on the NCN website like this?
For kind of for the COVID-19 stuff, or
yeah, just there used to be a portal on the NCN website. Is that still active, or is there some other way to get information to us?
The portal is still up there. It hasn't been updated. We are working on updating, having some COVID-19 resources on our page. And then I think as we roll out the regional pods, we'll do another page for that. But the COVID-19 resources, we'll be live with that early next week.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, Jackson, the other thing that I think that what I see a challenge with our small businesses, and I don't know if anyone else is having this challenge, but many of our small businesses came to native CDFIs because we were their only source that they could borrow from. They weren't bankable, and or their loans had been turned down. So the challenge that a lot of small business owners are going through right now with the SBA program is if they were not bankable prior to this, their financial statements are probably weak. And with that, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, from my understanding, and maybe Cindy Middlestead, you can elaborate on this a little bit more. You might not know more about it than me, but the security that the SBA is going to ask for in making some of those, anything above 500,000, 300,000 to 500,000, I heard, is the threshold to where they're going to really require a lot of collateral. So I think that's something that we need to look at, asking even the SBA or your 7A lenders to soften the underwriting requirements to a certain degree with these loans for Indian country. Do you have anything to add to that, Cindy?
I don't, as I haven't experienced it with the business yet, but I've read the instructions. The higher value applications will be secured with real estate and or other assets.
Okay.
Below that, furniture and fixtures. Yep.
One other question I had, does this time, I think this time works for most folks. But if you don't think, if you don't think this time works well, I guess let speak now or speak later, because we want to keep the conversation going, but we also want to make sure that it's at a good time for people.
And Jackson, the other thing that I want to throw out, I'm on another chat And one of the things that we were challenged with, and it's worked, is next week, everybody that's on the chat today, if you can make it, see if you can add or bring another person with you so that our conversation grows. And after 3 weeks with the other one, they were up to like 119. Started out with about 20. So it's really powerful, but on the same token, that one really kind of grew too large. But I think the more people that we can have on the call, and I really like the small, the smallness of this is good because there's a lot of good conversation and everybody has a opportunity to speak. So I like that aspect of it. But if we could get it to grow just a little bit, that'd be great too.
Yeah, I said this on the other call that I was on just before this one, and we've got kind of a Southwest coalition of Native small business support organizations, and we're all doing a lot already right now, and I'm really interested to know kind of what each of us focuses on. Jackson, I don't know if someone's already doing this, but if there was a rundown of what NCAI's asks are like for this week, and the FOA, and OFN or whoever the relevant organizations are. I mean, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? Like if NAFO's already doing something that we can jump on, we should do that. I think that's where this other group's stuck at that I'm on. And, there's some folks that want to build something while we're flying it, and others that are like, we don't got the time or the resources, but we want to help. And then there's that, like the Navajo Hopi Solidarity group that just popped up, and they're just kind of like, we don't have the resources, but our people are dying, so we're going to do something. So I don't know where we sit in all that. I think right now we're in loss mitigation mode, essentially trying to anticipate, where the revenue, where we feel some losses and how we deal with that. And I think we've been doing okay, but the information has been coming out piecemeal. So like I said, on the policy front, that's your bag, and NCAI will take your lead there. I'm not looking to get involved there other than forwarding the letter to and making sure that like ITCA signed off on it. But I just want to make sure we're already spread thin. We don't spread ourselves any thinner. I like the idea of the pod thing. I think that's something easy that we could do, and it makes sense. That might precipitate additional mergers or some kind of collaboration. So makes sense to me, but I'm certainly not. On our previous call, we were talking about launching a crowdfunding thing. I'm not down for that. Like I can't do that. Even if we're able to get in through the side door to become an SBA 7(a) lender, like right now is probably not the right time to pick up a new product and all the infrastructure that comes with that. But if there's a creative way to kind of do that as a collective, that maybe that's the route. So anyway, I'm looking for efficiencies, and I appreciate all the webinars and talks, but a lot of times it's just like, okay, that's another webinar. I just came away with some information, but now I'm committed to something. And yeah, just some help in trying to, it's a chaotic time right now. So anything that you and the board can do to kind of provide some stability and some really clear direction be really helpful. And the information on the PPP has been great. David Murray's on top of that, and I think we're all figuring that out together. Stimulus 4 and 5 are going to be probably pretty critical. So whatever we've learned from the first ones, I think we're used to kind of raising our voice and signing on to stuff. A lot of times stories are really good. Like if we could tell our LAs and congressional delegation that, look, this really happened out here today, and they could reference that on the Senate floor. Maybe that's what you need. But I think that's where we can be helpful, is just kind of reflecting back what's going on the ground out here.
Thanks. And then, yeah, and I think your idea of having a portal or place to store this is good, and that we'll be able to share NCAI's asks and stuff like that there, and I can send their, I guess, economic asks right after this call too. Chairman, I don't have anything else for our agenda right now.
Yeah, you know, the only thing that I would say is if anyone, and what we could do too, Jackson, is those that are on the call today, just do like a simple 4 or 5 page, not 4 or 5 page, 4 or 5 question poll of different topics that you would like in the next week or the week after. I know having Craig Anderson on would be huge. You know, Craig's been in the native SBA 7A program for a long time. So, you know, and maybe we could reach out to him and see if we can funnel some things through him, because has the experience. So if we put together a 4 or 5 question survey, would everybody just be willing to take it quick, and then we could get it out to you, you know, probably Monday or something. Just give us some topics that are of important to your area.
Yeah, that sounds good. We'll do that. And we're trying to bring a few more folks to the conversation. We want to bring some folks from the SBA, hopefully next week or the week after, to answer our questions. I think we'll still have questions about the PPP and the EIDL programs for, I guess, both for our members, but also, I guess, your clients as well. So I think things like that. If you have other ideas, we're open to that, and we'll track them down. Cool. All right. Well, thanks everybody. I don't have anything else, and appreciate your time, and keep doing what you're doing, and keep supporting our businesses and supporting our community. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jackson.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jackson.
Thanks. Bye.